Shows that make you laugh. Shows that make you think. Music that moves you. It could only be one place. Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
In the future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
The views and opinions expressed in these radio programs are those of the individual hosts and do not reflect the official policy or position of Universal Broadcasting Network. Welcome to the National Safe Child Show, addressing the health, welfare, and safety of all children nationwide, because it shouldn't hurt to be a child. Here are your hosts, Tammy Stefano and Priscilla Perez.
Hello.
And we're going to have a great show today. Welcome to the National Safe Child Show. We have Senator Beall, forgive me, coming on in about 10 minutes, and we're really excited.
It's very exciting today
yes.
to have a senator call in and take the time to be able to discuss some of these really important issues to
right.
all of us.
And he's pushing some bills that I believe Governor Brown has passed this bill, or it's sitting on his desk. I'm waiting to get informed. I was kind of running around. I've been working all morning, but we need to find out because there are a lot of bills that are sitting on desks all across this nation that are not being signed, they're not being approved, they're getting shut down, they make it so far to the assembly and then they get rejected. And we need to make the safety of children one of the nation's top priorities. We can't stress this enough.
We talk about this all the time, Tammy and I, about these bills and these initiatives and laws that go into effect. But it's really, and Tammy, you always say this, it's the language that goes into the bill that's very important, and which I'm hoping that we can also talk to Senator Beall about that, about how he went into, implementing AB 12, which
right.
helps a lot of the foster youth. AB 12. And, just with my, siblings, I know AB 12 very well because, it's helping my sisters now. But it's really about the language and the implementation and what steps it takes as us as a society to get some of these bills to the table, because there's many people out there that don't even know what the first step is. They don't even know what to log on to for some of this information. But I'm really happy that he's going to be calling in and that we get to talk to him about some of these issues. I'm very excited.
And we have Melissa, who is with National, and she is
our bill expert.
Yeah, she's just, she handles the policies and the aspect that the language has to be written correctly. And there was some discussion about who would better fit the job, and our vote is Melissa.
Woo!
Yeah, Melissa. Melissa's very kind, yet very strong, and she's on top of this. Melissa's going to be down, I guess, hopefully within the next month, and she'll come on the show, and so everybody will be able to see her beautiful face and be able to really ask some questions about policies and reform and what can we do to help get these bills implemented, and what can we do to reach out to the Congress members and to the assemblymen and to our officials.
Because we really want to make sure that we not only implement these laws to obviously protect our children, but we want to ensure that there aren't any loopholes in these bills that, we see on a daily basis, that the language is just very important, such as the best interest of a child. Yes. Is a loophole, and we want to talk about that. And Melissa is probably the best person that we know, because she studies these bills. She knows what she's talking about.
That's right.
And we're very happy to have her on board.
That's right.
And to get these congressmen on board,
That's what we need.
Yeah, we need
There is a woman who is just doing a lovely job, and we try to stay as... we don't want to go too controversial. I know everybody says, we love Priscilla because she gets right in there, and I'm with you, and I love her too, and I'm so grateful to have her. I try to not go so controversial because there is a happy medium. Tim Donnelly and Mike Gatto, we know that they pushed for the CPS audit that's going on, and we know how important that is. But there's been a lot of CPS audits, and the proof will be in the pudding.
Exactly.
And, when the audit's done, let's see what the final result is, because that will be, not that their efforts haven't been great and commendable. Tim Donnelly has certainly stepped up to the plate. I haven't heard much discussion about it recently.
Right. It seems when the advocates are more out there, do you know what I mean?
And
They're
vocal.
Very vocal. When they see us, it's more, that's when they actually start advocating with us.
Yes.
So I think we're going to have to be out there a little more
we're
now,
gonna have
because
to get some media attention.
Yes,
We're gonna have
that's what it's going to take.
Yeah, and
But,
maybe it'll be over this CPS, the DCFS rally, and the assault that was
The violence that
they displayed
Exactly.
publicly, and maybe we need a press conference with that, and we're actually working on some things. So I think that will be a time that maybe we'll get some attention from our officials.
Which is what we need. That's how we're going to get change, is to get the officials on
Yes.
board. I mean, we need to really, really work hard. It's going to take a lot of hard work, but I know that eventually we will get there. It's just really getting people on board. That's all.
That's
Getting
right.
people on board.
That's right. So we are encouraging everybody to not be shy. We need for you to step forward. There is a Facebook woman. Her name is Lori Callies, and she's doing some great letter writing to Congress. She's hitting every state. She is easy to work with. She's not biased to certain organizations, which is why I stand behind
Right.
Lori. So we're giving a shout out to Lori.
Hi, Lori.
Yeah, she's doing a good job. I've been watching, and we have people watching, and she's doing great. She's doing great. Shout
And it's
out
really
to you.
important to have people that are easy to work with.
Yes.
We know that it's not always the easiest thing to find, but it's very good when you find those people that are on the same page. It's not about who's getting credit for what or notoriety. It's
That's
really
right.
about, are you on the same page as us and what the mission at hand is, which is to protect all children. And so it's really hard to find people like that. So I commend Lori.
Yeah. And you know what? I don't agree with everything that everybody's doing, and everybody doesn't agree with me and you or other organizations, but we can travel on this path, maybe for a mile, maybe for 10 miles, and then we may go our separate ways. And that's okay, too. We help each other along, and somebody else is going to come along. But along the path, when we are working on the same page, that's the time that we should all join forces to keep the hope evoked.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Evoke the hope. That's our mission. So we don't have to scrutinize each other and go 100% of the way. And if we can't go 100% of the way together, then we don't go at all. It's all or nothing. You know what, folks? We can't even do that with husbands, and husbands can't do that with wives. And, our children often come so far, and then they say, okay, we're moving out now. It's time to move out. So let's go as far in the journey as we can with one another. And that's that. So the senator should be coming on in about another minute, and we're killing time. I'm just
very excited.
Yeah,
AB 12 is very exciting because, there was a time when, I don't know if a lot of you know, but half of our homeless population, most of these people are post-foster children. So this issue and this bill, really, really touches me. And, it's really close to my heart because it's something that I've been fighting for a very long time, just the care of the foster youth. There was a time when they would turn 18 and they were literally thrown out like trash. And some of these people are still living on the streets. And many people, half of our homeless population, that's half.
Yeah, children that have just simply, they're homeless because they aged out of the system and they didn't, the system isn't bad for everybody. It does help some people. There are some great foster homes, And
they age out and they literally they used to not have any resources. So basically college is out of the question, money, funds, they don't have any. So where do they turn to? So when AB 12 came into effect, they now have resources, they have funds to help them go to college, to become something, because sometimes, we already live in a world of adversity, but it sucks really bad when you have nowhere to turn to and you don't have not a dime to your name. And no family. And so this is something that I'm very, very happy that he's coming on board, because it takes a very big person to notice that this was a very big problem. And you look at the economy and you look at the problems. Well, if half of our homeless population, we had turned them into productive members of society, we probably wouldn't be in the problem that we're in.
Absolutely.
And because then you would make productive members of society. You would have, your attorneys, your doctors. You would have, all these amazing people that would have contributed to society. And because at that time we didn't have AB 12, that's why we have half of our homeless population that are post-foster children. So I'm very excited to have, Senator Beall on. And
SB 131.
SB 131.
Yeah, we're going to get into Senator Beall's going to discuss SB 131, which is so important. I don't know if you folks remember the lovely attorney Michael Kinslow, who was on a while ago, and you can listen to that show, which was heartfelt and wonderful. He's a great attorney, trial attorney, predominantly clergy abuse, but he has now certainly expanded to all abuses with children, and a great attorney. And Michael's words that will ring in my ears and my heart forever were, just because one day follows another is not an excuse to not allow victims of child sexual abuse to not be able to seek justice. Just because one day follows another. Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember clearly.
Oh, and he had, as he said it again, he had his eyes filled up with tears, and it was just, okay, damn it. We need to get on board and just say enough is enough. So Senator Beall, he really is our hero for really pushing to allow people to be able to seek justice. It's amazing to me. I always think about, you murder somebody, folks, and there is no statute. You can be charged 50 years later. And I don't care if you murdered somebody and you felt that it was justified. 60 years later, you can be charged and you'll be sentenced. You murder somebody spiritually, which is stealing a child's innocence from them. Because when you sexually abuse somebody, you filthy perpetrators out there, you are murdering them. You're murdering their innocence. You are stealing something that can never be replaced again. And our government puts a time limit on that. You want to seek justice, you who have been murdered internally, you have a time limit. So we're happy, and hopefully, in another 10 years, somebody's going to come along and say, you know what, to hell with all of the statutes involving, if a child has been sexually abused and they tell about it and they want to seek justice because they have enough courage, guess what? They have a right to.
They have a right when they feel comfortable speaking. And I don't even think there should be a statute of limitations at all. It should be when that child, either child or turns into an adult, feels comfortable with themselves to have the strength to be able to speak. Because, being a survivor, it's very difficult. And even your closest friend, you feel that you can't trust or that they're going to judge you. So there has to be a time in the victim's life where they feel strong enough to be able to say, you know what, I did nothing wrong, and it's time that I put him or her, my abuser, on the stand. And that's the way it should be. And I feel that the government has not protected our children enough.
No.
We need more. We need more help, and it should be the priority.
We need more senators.
Yes, we want them on board.
My God, how could they not? How could they not want to help? Why would this not be important? If they really were concerned about their own children, and I'm not saying that they're not. I know that they are, but what we really need is for them to recognize that it is affecting their children.
It is.
This is affecting their grandchildren. I just had this discussion 70 years ago when our grandparents were working to make sure that the family legacy went on. They weren't just doing it for the moment. This whole cliche, live in the moment. Well, yeah, I'd love to live in the moment, and it's true, but what about tomorrow?
Exactly.
What about my kids? What about my grandchildren? Are they going to be suffering? They can't have clean water? We've got this epidemic right now in California with the salmonella with chicken. 1,000 people have already, whatever, I can't even think. They've been affected by salmonella poisoning. And so the hospitals are being, bombarded with this poisoning. This is the chicken that we're buying, folks. The water that we're drinking, the food that we're eating. If we don't participate in what's happening with our children in the future, we won't be around, but you know what? We will be the ones responsible, setting up the landscape to have our children and our grandchildren and great-grandchildren suffering tremendously. And we need to be aware of that. And when children are sexually abused, we know through the ACE study, Adverse Childhood Experiences study, and research that it affects the whole society. It affects our communities. It affects, our workforce. It affects health care. It is affecting us in every way. Our prison systems. You look at any area, and I assure you we'll find the research to present in how it is affecting our nation and our world. We focus on the nation because we're the national, right? But it doesn't mean that we are ignoring the world.
Exactly.
What's happening in the world? What's happening in India? What's happening with these rapes? Africa, Syria, you name it. In the
everywhere.
UK, in Australia. It is so bad. And we as a world, we as a nation, just we in our beautiful Universal Broadcasting Network studio today, we need to address the nation, but it's a worldwide pandemic.
It is. I just, once Senator Beall comes on board, I really, besides, talking about the bills, I kind of want to get his take just on, in general, the issue of child abuse. Obviously he's worked in it for a very long time. He's probably one of the only senators that we know of that has been so vocal and active.
There are a couple of others, but when you can actually name on one hand the senators that are extremely involved, such as Senator Beall, who is privy to the giving abusers custody of children, who is privy to the foster care system, who is privy to the statute of limitations, and not that the other senators and Congress members and governors and mayors are not privy to. They are. The problem is, who is going to not be a coward and not worry about appeasing their fellow politician, but instead stepping up to the plate and saying, I'm stepping up. I'm
and we're going to get it done.
Yeah,
and we're going to get it done.
We're putting the language into effect. We're going to get this going. And really pushing for their other members to step on board. We have a caller. And as soon as the call comes in, we're going to take it. Hopefully it's Senator Beall. I know with the weather being the way it is, and I know that he was on the road, there's probably just some, weather interference.
I know it took us a while to get here too.
Yeah, the weather. It's raining in Southern California, folks, for the first time.
And when it rains even just a little bit in LA, it feels like, like we're in Canada somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, being an East Coast girl, it is a little rain doesn't bother me, but for most of Californians,
right. I'm a California girl.
Yeah, most of Californians, all of a sudden, all you can see is brake lights,
right.
And it's like, okay, we can go more than 20 miles an hour. We need to get there. I'm in New York. As you can hear in the accent, driver. And so it doesn't sit well with me, this stop.
Tammy, this morning, she said, okay, we're going to have to step on it a little bit more.
Let's step on it a little bit.
I'm driving like a typical LA person.
Yes. So AB 131, we are excited. We've pushed, Mothers of Lost Children has pushed, National Safe Child Coalition, Havenly Blue.
Taking action against child abuse.
Yep, taking action against child abuse. They have been pushing. We have been pushing to Lori Callis with the letter writing. Lots of Facebook folks who have just been adamant, who have been affected, whose families have been terribly affected by their children aging out and not being able to seek justice. And it's a crime. Not only was the initial crime committed and there was lack of justice given, because as we know, a child's voice is, and if you didn't hear what I just said, that's a child's voice when they are looking for help. And they're not heard.
And they're continuously victimized. It's like their initial victimization from their abuser, then the lack of justice, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, now that you are ready to talk, guess what? Now we've victimized you once again.
Yes.
Is there a
call? Do we have a caller coming on? Hello?
Hi, I have Senator Jim Bell on the line for you.
Oh, thank you so much. We've been anticipating and I'm very excited. Glad you got through.
I'm going to hand the phone over to him now, okay?
Thank you.
Alrighty.
Hey, this is Jim.
Hi, Senator Bell. Welcome.
Welcome.
We're pleased to have you. Thank you so much for giving us your time. I'm not going to do a lot of talking because we want to honor you and we really want to hear all the important information that you want to present to our listeners. So please do delve right in, Senator.
Well, my first question is, I wanted to ask you, sorry, Senator Bell, but regarding AB 12, just because that one is really close to home for me, being in the foster care system and then taking custody of my siblings, I really wanted to get your take on AB 12 and, just the implementation of AB 12, because that's huge. Looking at, California and LA, just half of our homeless population here, in our nation are post-foster children.
Yeah. AB 12 was passed a few years ago and went into effect January 1st, 2012. And what we're doing there is we're essentially extending the age limit for foster care services from 18 to 21. And this is for transitional foster youth that become adults and become over 18. We felt that after a lot of studies that dumping foster kids out of the system at age 18 was inappropriate, and that we should have at least programs funded until age 21, and that would create more success for the foster kids and allow them to go to college. And that was a very important piece of legislation that was passed and is now law. It's called the Fostering Connections to Success Act.
Excellent.
And the idea was to, turn around 22% of the foster youth after 2 years went to some kind of correctional institution as opposed to going to college, which I think the number of college age, 4-year college, was something like 2 to 3%. So we want to turn that completely around and get the foster youth into college, vocational programs, other kinds of job experience programs, so they can become successful in their lives. And that's the intent of the legislation. It funds services from the social worker, school funding, it funds housing, food, all those programs.
Right.
Well, I thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this is important.
You.
Okay, SB 131. What a fight!
Big fight. 21 lobbying firms fighting against us. Probably over $500,000 spent lobbying against the bill.
Wow.
This bill is the California Victims' Rights Act.
Right.
It creates a new standard for statute of limitations for childhood sexual abuse. It allows individuals that were barred from filing cases due to a Supreme Court ruling last year that limited people's ability to file cases. We are basically overturning the Supreme Court and creating a law that makes it very clear that people that have delayed discovery, which means that sometimes they don't even remember being abused, but
That's
later
right.
in life come to the realization that they were abused through, therapy and other kinds of ways.
A trigger, right? We're very things
or
happen.
or maybe they had to overcome a lot of shame and feelings about it, and finally came to the conclusion that it's important for them to have the right to stand up and confront their abusers and those who protected their abusers.
Right.
And have their day in court. And all this does is allows them to have their day in court. They still have to go through a judicial process of filing a case and then proving a case in court. And that's all it basically does. I think we have to say that California has not done very good for people that are victims of child abuse in terms of allowing them to have their day in court to file civil cases against people that have abused them or people who have protected the people that abused them.
Exactly.
By not disclosing or hiding or circumventing the law for them. Children do deserve to be protected, and this bill has been supported by district attorneys in Santa Clara and San Diego counties, the Police Chiefs Association, all kinds of child advocacy organizations, and we're hopeful right now that the governor will sign the bill and make it into a law.
That's what. So help us to understand, because we have been advocating for this bill. We Governor Brown, we are calling on you, and we will have a major telephone and email. We already have, but
we need that to happen right now. We need Governor Brown to be contacted.
Okay.
Right now.
Okay.
Governor Brown should receive a lot of calls from or emails from people that believe that the victims should have a right to file these lawsuits. We believe that unless this bill passes, some abusers will continue to abuse children in the future, and it's time to put our foot down and say we have to stop
rewarding the abuser and letting them slip through the crack. There's no punishment.
That's what's happening. We've taken this too lightly, and I commend you on this bill. We know, okay, now you have organizations like us, Havenly Blue, the National Safe Child Coalition, TAACA. There's so many organizations that are supporting this bill, and we've written letters, we're active because we know. And we're trying to spread the word, but what is it going to take and we know we need the governor's signature, but to get people and other senators and other states on board to say this is what needs to be done. How can
who's supporting you
exactly?
Well, this bill is strongly supported by, first of all, the National Center for Victims of Crime,
right?
Groups like National Association of Social Workers,
right?
We have the Chief of Police Association, Coalition Against Sexual Assaults, which is the coordinating group for fighting for better laws on sexual assaults, National Safe Child Coalition.
Yes, that's us.
That's Tammy.
Yeah, that's me.
Equity California, which is a lobbyist for LBGT community in California. The District Attorney of Santa Clara and San Diego County, the DAs, the American Association of University Women, Boys and Girls Clubs in Santa Barbara support it. California nurses, the people that take the victims when they go to the hospital, they support it.
Excellent.
And even
so
having
all these groups.
And having all these groups, you really think about it, because that's a lot of organizations and groups really supporting this bill. Right. So why is it so...
Well, wait a minute. Who's against? Let's talk about who's been the adversary pushing with this.
Exactly. Why is there opposition on
an issue?
Why.
We know why.
Well, the opposition has been led by the California Catholic Conference of Bishops.
Exactly.
Okay.
They created an organization called the California Council of Nonprofit Organization.
Wow.
And that was done to give the impression that nonprofit organizations oppose the bill. Well, we got a letter from the true nonprofit organization in California saying, hey, wait a minute, these people don't represent nonprofit organizations. That's a phony group created by the lawyers that defend abusers. It's a phony organization, and they're not really an organization of nonprofits.
Senator
so they're
Beall,
using this deception to fight our legislation.
What is the name again? Let's say this loud and clear. We want all of our listeners to hear the name of this.
If you hear of a group called the California Council of Nonprofit Organization, that is a phony group set up by the California Catholic Conference to lobby against SB 131, and it's an organization that was just set up earlier this year, and they do not represent the nonprofit organizations in California. There's a California Nonprofit Council that organized that's a long-standing organization that represents all our nonprofit community in California. And they have written a letter to the state legislature and the governor saying, hey, we do not appreciate this group trying to allege that they represent the nonprofit community. So it's a deceptive tactic trying to convince the governor to sign the bill. And they've been called out by the true nonprofit organization.
Excellent. Excellent. It's so good. We need to start exposing these organizations that are hiding behind the shield, very much in the same way that the perpetrators hid behind the white collar and, the priesthood. Yeah. Unfortunately.
I'll give you Jerry Brown's.
Please do.
Here's how to contact.
Oh, you know what? We have it up on our screen.
You want to do gov.ca.gov.
Okay.
gov.ca.gov. That gets right into the office of Governor Jerry Brown. His fax number is 916
okay
558 3160.
Senator,
letter to him.
We have it already. We have it on.
Go for it.
Go ahead. No. Go ahead for the listeners that don't have it up. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, that's the fax number.
Okay.
Right.
Get the information to him right now and tell him to sign SB 131.
When is
California
the
Victims'
deadline?
Rights Act.
When is the deadline here?
He's got until the 13th of October to sign this bill, so we need to have letters right now.
If he doesn't sign the bill, let's inform the listeners. If he doesn't sign,
Well, he could do two things.
Okay.
Three things. He can sign the bill, which
Okay.
is what we want to do.
Okay.
He cannot sign the bill and let it pass into law without his signature.
Okay.
That's the second option. Or he can veto the bill.
Right.
If he vetoes the bill, he should have a veto message explaining it.
Governor Brown,
why he
yeah.
vetoes. Yeah.
You don't want to veto this bill.
Right.
You will have.
Don't veto this bill.
Do not veto this bill because we will get.
Right.
Yeah.
All these advocates will be very upset.
We'll get everybody. We'll get not only the advocates.
Well, people need to know that there are a lot of misinformation about the bill.
Okay.
Going out there, and that's a common method to defeat a bill by slick lobbyists.
Right.
Is to confuse people enough so that they become uncertain, and then they say, well, gee whiz, I don't think I'll vote for it. When the bill went through the legislature, there was a number of legislators that they weren't ready to vote against the bill, but they didn't vote for the bill. They stood off and did not vote for the bill or for or against the bill. And that's because people call and confuse them about the issue. And it seems to me that that's one of their major tactics, because it's kind of really hard to lobby against protecting children from sexual abusers. And so they throw up a bunch of phony arguments just to give excuses not to vote for something.
Right. And there's such a play on words, isn't it?
Right.
There's just such a play. I've read some bills that, you know, somebody will call the organization and they say, this looks like a great bill. And I read it and I read it and I read it. And all of a sudden you see this very slick, I think that was great verbiage that you used, very slick language.
Verbiage.
They're good.
Right, they are
Listen,
These lobbyists are all making like $200,000 to $300,000 a year or more. Some
Gosh.
making millions of dollars a year, and they're very slick. They have a lot of connections. Boy, you can see them a mile away because they walk into Capitol with their Gucci clothes and their Armani suits and everything.
And they're ready to roll.
And
yeah.
all while at children's expense.
Well, you know what? With economy the way it's going, there's definitely a separation. However, the good part is the real passionate people that are not getting paid all of that money to buy Armani suits, they are stepping up to the plate. So we want to see some language. We want to see some bills brought to the table that we can help with. We want to see children protected. We know you've been involved for a long time in one way or another. This is not...
That's why we wanted you on this show so bad, because we knew that you were one of these leaders. As Tammy says, there are too many followers and not enough leaders in this world. And we really commend you. And we want to work with you in hopes that we can really...
We want to support you.
We want to support.
You know, as long as, once again, with everybody,
Well, I have a dream.
Okay.
My dream is that the California law will be changed, and the California law will have no statute of limitations.
I love
it. That's what I was just saying earlier.
Florida, Illinois just passed this law in August. Florida has it for the last 2 years. Minnesota passed a law. New York is considering it. And we have to, if you look at the national scope of the issue of child abuse, the question then becomes, why is there a statute of limitation at all on these things?
Exactly. Why is there? And it makes one wonder what's going on. California typically is the leader. We typically are the leaders. So for other states to be surpassing us in something that should be simple.
They're moving ahead of us.
They're moving ahead of us, Californians.
We're sitting on our, what?
We can say it, asses. I'll say it. I'll say it, asses. We're sitting on our asses. And we are doing nothing. And you know what? We are becoming, we're not what we used to be, but we have that opportunity to step back up. And with senators such as yourself stepping forward, having the courage, and putting this out there, know that we are going to support this. And we are not shy, and we're not afraid.
We're very vocal.
and we know that continuing to allow children to be abused with no recourse and no help is going to destroy this nation as a whole.
Yeah, it costs a lot of money too. I think I think here's a good argument for a fiscal conservative. If you're a fiscal conservative, who do you want to pay for the cost of child abuse? Do you want the government to pay for it by having all the mental health programs? The inevitable, a certain percentage of them will end up in prison because they're trying to self-medicate their problem by using drugs. The memories of child abuse are lifelong, and people have mental health and drug abuse problems at a higher degree than the normal person. So you would have that situation. And also people get incarcerated. They commit crimes.
Absolutely.
We incarcerate mentally ill and drug abusers right now in California instead of sending them into treatment. And who pays for all this? Should the state of California and the counties and our school districts pay, or should the abuser pay? Tell me which one you want to pay.
Let me tell you something. That alone, you tell the abuser, we're going to take your money. We might have cut down a big portion of the abuser population because
we'll pay back all of our debt.
Well,
that's what the DAs have said. They said this will be a huge deterrent to child abuse in California if this bill is signed into law.
Oh, yes.
So, okay, let's talk. Let's talk about AB 652.
Okay.
Is that it? Is the mental health situation? I couldn't find a lot about it. Forgive me. But that's why we have you, because you're going to fill us in. Is that the AB 652? Children and mental health. What's happening?
Well, we have the Affordable Care Act in California implementation going on right now. People are signing up for health care. If you don't have health care in California, go sign up for Affordable Care Act. And if you're not eligible for that, you may be eligible for Medi-Cal. And we have expanded the coverage, including mental health treatment for people and substance abuse treatment.
Let's talk about that.
We still have a ways to go, however. We want to have the insurance companies enforcement on them to cover mental health and substance abuse. And right now, there's been a series of multi-million-dollar fines to insurance companies for denying people coverage. Kaiser, which is, I would consider them one of the better providers in California. They do a really good job. However, they got fined $11 million for not covering people adequately. So there's a lot of Blue Cross, Blue Shield, they've all been fined for not covering. And I think that we need a stronger set of enforcement on these insurance companies, and they should have reports that come annually. So I've introduced this bill, SB 22.
Okay, SB 22.
We're going to try to get passed this next year and get Governor Brown to sign, that increases the enforcement of the laws, the existing laws. We're not trying to change the law. We're trying to enforce the existing laws.
Okay.
Making the insurance company not have what we call phantom mental health programs.
Okay.
That means when they say they cover it, but then when you try to get mental health services,
you're denied.
Right.
You're denied, or you're referred to people that don't cover you, that don't provide the service anymore, or you have a hard time finding your service.
Right. And by the time that I have experienced, because I dated a doctor for quite a long time, and he really filled me in. By the time that these sickly people get the runaround from one to another, and you wait for authorizations, and then you have to wait for referrals, they throw their hands up.
Well, the problem with mental health is there is a tendency, and especially substance abuse, is people sometimes they don't want treatment, or they don't try hard enough to get treatment. You ever try to convince a person that has, say a prescription drug medication problem?
Absolutely.
To get care, it's hard to convince them in the first place. And if the insurance companies and healthcare providers put up a lot of barriers for that person, they give up. They say, well, I can't get it. I'm not going to do it. So let's get another 20 Vicodin tablets.
Exactly, and it's
so
easy.
We got to stop this. We got to make it simple for people to immediately get health care.
That's right.
And that's what we need. We can't wait. We can't. These are crisis. We had a hearing in San Francisco 2 weeks ago of the Senate Mental Health Committee, and we heard about suicides. 4,000 suicides in California, 29,000 attempts just last year.
Wow.
So we need to stop these kind of mental health problems.
Was there an age?
It's all ages.
Okay.
It's the third highest cause of suicide. Is the third highest cause of death among teenagers.
Yes.
Wow.
DUIs is, of course, number one.
Yes.
Drug drinking and driving.
Right, driving under the influence.
So if you combine drugs and mental health, that's the leading cause of death by far of all our teenagers.
This is crazy.
We need to do
something. So we need
something.
care for those kids.
We do.
We
take care of them.
We
need counselors in the schools. They need medication if the doctor says it's okay, and we need to take care of them. We can't just let them languish with their problems.
No, we cannot. We owe it to them.
And then they're depending on social media. They reach out a lot to each other, children. They reach out to social media, and then they hit an avenue that they just can't back off of, and so they don't really have an avenue anymore.
That's right.
At least mentally stable avenue to be able to say, I need help. And that I think that's where we as a society need to step in and say, you know what, I'm here and I'm extending my hand to you.
Yeah, there's a lack of compassion too. It's about
money. I think
money.
when we don't cover the kids adequately and we give them the runaround,
yes,
exactly.
You know what happens with kids? They end up not trusting us.
Of course, and that's where we are. There is a disconnect in trust. Absolutely. And you know what? They're not wrong for not trusting us. This is what society has done, and now we need to.
It's a big problem. I mean, I look back now, just everything that we're working on in advocacy, in child advocacy, and looking back, I always wonder what would have happened to me if I would have been vocal at such a young age. Because I look at all the cases that we have now and all the children that are involved, and I wonder, would have my outcome been? Because children aren't protected the way they should be. And that's why many children aren't coming forward, because they're so afraid, one, of their perpetrator, and two, you're not even going to listen.
And the system fails them.
Exactly.
They know that they can't reach out. The minute that they hit 18, they're getting the boot. And then, Senator Beall, they had this child trafficking bust.
Exactly.
2 months ago.
2 months ago.
Yeah, it was
in
105
children found, right?
105 children, but 60% of those 105 minors were actually children in the system.
Foster
children.
I think people prey on the foster kids once they're 18. That's why we have to have them go to school rather than go to the streets.
Yes,
exactly.
We have to give them extensive resources because they haven't had the foundation that a two-parent family or a one-stable parent family has had. They need
Nancy Skinner, I'll give her some credit.
Okay.
Nancy Skinner spoke up on our child abuse bill. She actually described her personal life story where she was abused as a child. Mm-hmm. In the hearing testifying in favor of SB 131. Nancy is the chair of the Assembly Rules Committee representing the Berkeley-Oakland area.
Okay.
And Nancy has been a strong, staunch advocate for having these programs where kids that are runaways can get the Medi-Cal card and get services immediately rather than have to continue to live on the street. We should put them in housing. We should provide care for them. No other country has the number of youth running around on the streets as the United States.
And that's
go to other countries. They don't. This is not
allowed,
morally acceptable.
And you're even talking. I mean, quite honestly, I've done extensive traveling in my lifetime. Third world countries don't handle children the way we do, and I'm ashamed.
Well, that's why you have to turn this around in a big way.
Yes. Yeah. Who else can we get? Who else can we push to stand to support you so that we can then create? Because we can.
We will create a team for you, Senator Beall.
Well, we need to have a bipartisan approach. We need to have the fiscal conservative Republicans and we started to reach out to them in the state senate, but we need more and more of these people that care about money, and maybe they're not so compassionate or have empathetic feelings,
right?
But they do care about money.
Right.
We need them to start to realize that having untreated children and the child abuse and all that is a dangerous thing for the state. It does suck up all the money into the prison system and child welfare system and the healthcare system, and that's money taken away from our education system. So instead of educating kids, we're trying to clean up the problems that are created by not having an adequate preventive mental health and alcohol and drug abuse system. See, so it's fiscally irresponsible.
Absolutely. What about, and you may not, touch on this, the psychotropic drugs that we are hearing about almost daily at this point? People are coming forth, they're complaining, my children are in the system, they're in these hospitals, and even undisclosed facilities around the country, a couple of which we have been able to find out about. We're not putting in public yet. Any familiarity with that, or is that a topic for another day?
Well, I think the standard of care for a long time for mental health and substance abuse has been what we call a social model.
Yes.
And there hasn't been a set of comprehensive look at creating a system of standards for care for people. And that's why you have, all kinds of methods unregulated for dealing with substance abuse. Just on the internet, you can find I'll detox you in 3 days by using some kind of various processes and a lot of promises to people. A lot of these promises are no better than con artist games that people see. They're con jobs. They promise you to be totally detoxed, cared for, your mental health problems to be released, all that kind of thing, and then their success rate is almost nil. But they take your money.
Right, absolutely.
And, some of the programs are medically based that are acceptable, and that's why at a national level, National Institute of Health and Center for Disease Control are urging a national set of standards for treatment of alcohol, drug abuse, and mental health programs. So we need some standards of care, and then we need some enforcement of organizations or treatment programs that consistently fail to provide outcomes that are acceptable and take your money. And those people should not be in business.
Right, absolutely. You're familiar with Senator Ted Lieu.
Yeah, of course.
How much help can we get from Senator Lieu?
He's been a strong advocate for accountability in the Medi-Cal system and supports what I just mentioned.
Excellent. Excellent. So what we need to do is we need to work. What can we do to help you other than we can do letter writing? We'll have crowds out there to support accountability, to support child safety, extension of statute of limitations, or elimination altogether, and anything else. We are for the children, anything to benefit, because make no mistake, this is the investment. This is the stock market here. The children, without investing in them, they are the future. We're done. Exactly. It doesn't matter how many Gucci purses I have, we're done. And at the rate we're going, if we don't address it very aggressively, we're going to have a serious problem in 10 more years. We're seeing it already. Well,
you're right. I think let's start talking about health outcomes.
Okay, let's do it.
Instead of spending money, I would reward organizations that produce better health outcomes.
Absolutely.
Why should we continue to fund outcomes that are not acceptable? I'll I think in the state government we should have performance measurement and rewarding outcomes rather than just continually process funds with the cost of living increase to various governmental programs. You get what I'm saying? I think that we have to have a new way of looking at government, and part of it is, we shouldn't just sit there and accept the fact that our prisons continue to grow and grow, for example.
Right. We need best practices. We need a best practices.
We spend $60,000 a year for each inmate in California on average right now.
Imagine.
Wow. And they get to exercise, have 3 meals a day, and it's.
Well, when they're released, they give them $200 and a train ticket.
Oh,
and I think 70% of them come back in 2 years to the prison or jail system.
Because it becomes a lifestyle for them. It's no longer.
They don't have any way of getting out of that circuit.
They don't know how to, so they live it. That's their life.
And 2/3 at the least, and this is a conservative percentage, end up there and begin to become criminals as a result of experiencing child trauma, child abuse.
There is a statistic that show that. And when I visited about 15 prisons so far as a legislator, and including the Los Angeles County Jail, for example.
Wow.
And the women's prison, I'll just give you statistics. They say almost every single person in there was abused as a child. The women.
I believe that.
Thank you.
Almost all of them.
Yes. I presented.
Very few have not been.
I saw statistics once, and me and my research, I couldn't find it again, but the statistics said 80% of the inmates, 80. You know what? That wasn't hard for me to swallow.
Well, there's a lot of cultural bias against talking about it, stigma and so forth, but I think we have to recognize that the numbers are much greater than we assume, and that let's fight it in a very strong way. And the way to fight it is to provide treatment and intervention before the crimes occur, the child abuse, and then before the illnesses occur, the mental health and the substance abuse, substance abuse, and alcohol and drug overuse has contributed greatly to child abuse. There is a relationship.
Yes, there is.
We always talk about, fixing the issue, the issues at the core. That's when you will get results.
Prevent.
You will get results. It's because that's why we are in debt. That's why we have so many issues regarding, our funds here in our nation, is because we're not getting to the core of the issue. And once we have federal and state accountability to protect our children, I think that we'll finally start to see some results, and it'll pay off to have productive members of society, as we always say. And so we are very much supporting you.
Yes.
Well, let's get that bill passed. Let's get the governor to sign it. Everybody, you can send them an email right now at gov.ca.gov. Send them an email saying, sign SB 131. That's what I urge. Now.
Absolutely. So what we would love to do, we're running out of time, and I know that you've given more than you even were able to.
Thank you so
and we're
much.
So grateful. We want to have you.
We want him
back on. We'd love for you to come
in the
to
studio.
Southern. Yeah, we would definitely do an hour or two show, gladly, and really kind of set the stage. Let's get some stuff together, and let's get some real interaction going across the state, and just have phone lines open.
For questions.
Yeah, we have them closed today because we want you exclusively, but have the phone lines open and really, really just break this up. We really get campaigns going in a way that maybe is a little out of sort for the typical campaigning. What do you think?
Well, people have to get involved. I mean,
Yes.
if you want change, you have to make change yourself.
That's right.
You can't just sit back and watch things happen, but you have to realize you can have a great impact, and you can have a great impact right now by getting the governor to sign this bill. If he started getting a lot of push to sign the bill, let's get the push going right now.
Right this minute.
Right.
24 hours. Let's have them hear from the people and sign the bill.
That's right. Well, you know what? You can't see a screen that I'm seeing, so I see I'm getting emails already and messages that we're signing, we're sending this out. So I think that today, on this rainy day, that the governor probably is going to be forced to sit in his office because of the rain and, the whole California thing.
He reads the bills himself, so he's probably reading these bills right now as we speak.
We have a lot of people on the chat roll at the moment, so we know that these people are going to be calling in.
Absolutely. Not only is he going to be reading the bills, he's going to be reading a lot of emails today.
Right.
I think
that's what we want.
That's what we want. Let's inundate him, folks, listeners. This is important. Just because one day passes after another does not justify victims of sexual abuse to not receive their day in court. That's the point. They have a right. They've been robbed. Let's not rob them again. Just because one day passes another.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you. We are so grateful again.
And we hope that you will take our offer to come into the studio.
Yeah, I will. I'll do that. And I want to end by telling you a story.
Please.
This bill, we had a hearing in the Senate Judiciary Committee.
Okay.
This gymnastics club, young women that were in the gymnastics club when they were like 9, 10, 11, 12, came to the hearing, sat in the front row, held each other's hands, and had a couple of the members get up and tell their stories about their coach that molested all of them. And they did not find out until like 10, 15 years later, after getting together for kind of a reunion, that the coach molested all of them. And they later, one of them watched television and was watching Olympic trials, and sure enough, the coach was coaching our Olympic athletes in gymnastics.
The pedophile. They
saw him on TV.
The pedophile.
They saw him on TV.
Oh, my God.
And they said, how can he continue to coach, and who's protecting him? And so that's why they came down and testified for SB 131. And let's get the governor to sign the bill so that our athletes and our kids that are trying to do a lot of things to make their lives better and have successful lives don't get abused and have the abusers wreck their lives.
Ruin their lives and ruin society and rob their innocence. And
it's time for victims to get justice. We want justice.
We don't want victimization anymore. Mm-hmm. We want to scare these people and let them know, not on our watch, period. No. Because we're going to have senators like Senator Beall right at the forefront saying, okay, let's push it.
They all hold their hands, and it was scary for them to get up and testify. And one of the women said, I just want my day in court, and if I win in court, I want a settlement of 1 penny.
Wow.
I want 1 penny from him, but I want him to admit that he did it and that we can stop him.
We have to realize that what it does to people, what it robs people. If you're not sexually abused, you'll never understand. Yeah. We can only look and try to understand what they go through year after year. Their silence alone, the prison that they live in, for those people to get up with the courage and then to have her say, this isn't about money. This is about me being free and him.
Right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, and him being accountable. I am freeing myself.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Senator Beall. Thank you so much.
We dedicate this show to you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care. Wow, Senator Beall is, we're over the time. And as usual, Universal Broadcasting Network never fails to give the time that's necessary to address these issues. They are so passionate about this, and without UBN, we wouldn't be able to get this information out. So again,
we love UBN.
We love you, UBN.
Ann.
Yeah, we love Ann. We love Tony.
John,
we love John,
Tony,
who make this possible, and Senator Beall, who we commend. And now, folks, we have an obligation. We've given our word. We've got telephone calls and
letters to write
and emails. He gave us the information. Let's inundate that office. It's a rainy day today.
He's in the office.
Everybody, let's stay home with our PJs and our warm socks and our hot cocos, and let's get to work.
Yes,
aggressively.
We're going to get SB 131 signed.
Yeah, and if it's not signed, tomorrow, guess what? We're going to be doing the same thing again. And you know what? Folks who are in the area, pay a visit. Nothing wrong with paying a visit. If I was near the governor's office, believe me, I'd have nothing better to do than to pay a visit and knock on the door of the office that we are paying for, that we are supporting, and saying, hello, our victims want some justice.
Exactly. Enough is enough.
Yeah. Priscilla, so our show today is...
I'm actually dedicating this show, which I haven't done, but I'm dedicating this show to my siblings who, because of AB 12, are doing what they need to do and get through college. So this is dedicated to you. I love you.
Thank you. Thank you, listeners out there. Thank you for supporting us, and thank you for our listeners. Our audience is growing. We have thousands of people now.
Thank you for listening to the National Safe Child Show on UBN Radio. For past episodes, visit the archives on ubnradio.com. And for more information, go to nationalsafechildcoalition.com.